Usually when we talk about professional skills, there's this underlying expectation of precision.
Right.
It's kind of like engineering. You take a course, you get a certification, you follow a checklist,
Yeah.
and the result is just right there on the spreadsheet.
It's a very binary.
Exactly.
You are either competent at building the financial model or you aren't. It's clean, and frankly, it's comforting.
Oh, totally.
We really like our professional metrics to be visible and easily categorized.
But then you step into those 2 minutes before a Zoom meeting actually starts.
Oh yeah, the worst.
Right. Or you're standing in the lobby waiting for the elevator with a new client, and suddenly all that clean precision is just gone.
Just out the window.
Yeah. We're looking at a conversational landscape that is, well, murky at best.
It is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Yeah.
It happens in real time, there's no script, and for a lot of highly competent people, it's a terrifying space to navigate.
And that is exactly what we are tackling today. We're going to pull apart the actual mechanics of unscripted small talk.
Which is so needed.
Right. And we're going to figure out how to turn those awkward, seemingly pointless silences into a massive professional advantage.
Absolutely.
We're drawing from a pretty wide range of research for this deep dive today. So we've got communication theory, corporate training data, cross-cultural analyses, and we want to use all of this to build a foolproof, repeatable system.
I love it.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because small talk is fundamentally, well, it's like the lobby of a corporate building.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't just teleport to the 50th floor to do the deep strategic work. You have to walk through the lobby first.
That analogy holds up perfectly when you look at the psychology of trust.
Right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to understand that those unscripted micro-interactions, they aren't just filler between the quote-unquote real work.
No.
The lobby is where psychological safety actually forms. Yeah, over weeks and months, these 2-minute chats build what organizational psychologists call relationship equity.
Relationship equity. So that's essentially the currency you spend when things go wrong, right?
Frankly,
Yeah.
it pays massive dividends.
Yeah.
When you're facing a tight deadline, or you need a favor, or you just need the benefit of the doubt from a colleague after you make a mistake.
Which happens to all of us.
Exactly. They don't give you that grace because of your spreadsheet skills.
Right, right.
They give it to you because of the relationship equity you built in the lobby.
But before we get into the mechanics of, how to actually build that equity, we need to address the elephant in the room.
Which is the dread.
Yes. Why do so many smart, highly capable people just dread this? Research from Talera highlights this massive gap between professional competence and conversational confidence.
It's so true.
People will spend, 20 hours rehearsing a 50-slide presentation.
Easy.
But those 3 minutes of small talk before the presentation begins, we just leave that to chance. And it induces absolute panic.
Well, it induces panic because it requires intense simultaneous processing.
Right.
Think about what your brain is actually doing during small talk.
A lot.
You are analyzing their body language, listening to their words, filtering out background noise, and formulating your own response, all at the exact same time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's an incredibly high cognitive load.
And corporate training materials, like the ones we pulled from Aventis, point out that this load isn't distributed equally.
Not at all. For introverts, these interactions act like a battery drain.
Right.
They aren't just passing time. They're actively spending energy reserves to maintain that simultaneous processing.
Which is exhausting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if you factor in non-native English speakers, which is a major focus in the online class training materials, the load essentially doubles.
Oh, I bet.
They're managing the social dynamics while simultaneously worrying about their accent or frantically searching their mental dictionary for the exact right vocabulary word.
So the panic is completely justified. It's a heavy lift. I know communication expert Rahul Kohli suggests a mindset shift to combat this.
Yeah, he does.
He advocates for connection over perfection.
I really like that phrase.
Yeah, the idea is that the goal of small talk isn't to be the most charismatic entertainer in the room, You don't need a tight 5 minutes of stand-up comedy ready to go.
Right, thankfully.
Your only goal is to be genuinely curious about the other person. You take the spotlight off your own performance and you shine it on them.
Which relieves a massive amount of pressure. You transition from being a performer to being an observer.
I appreciate the philosophy behind that. I really do.
Yeah.
But I have to push back a little here.
Okay, let's hear it.
What happens when my mind just goes completely blank?
Oh, the freeze.
Yes. You know that distinct feeling? You're waiting for the Zoom host to start the meeting. It's just you and a senior VP, and your brain just gives you television static.
Yeah, white noise.
In that moment of panic, reminding myself to be curious isn't going to save me if I literally cannot formulate a coherent sentence.
No, you're entirely right. That is a very real limitation of just relying on a mindset shift.
Yeah.
When the brain freezes under the pressure of the spotlight effect, willpower and natural charm just completely evaporate.
They're gone.
You need a structural safety net.
Yeah.
If the problem is cognitive load, the solution is a framework that reduces that load.
Which brings us to the EASE framework. Environment, ask, share, exit.
Yes.
It's essentially a sticky note-sized set of instructions that gives your panicked brain a specific sequential job at every stage of the interaction.
It's brilliant. Let's look at the mechanics of the first step, the E for environment.
Okay.
When your mind goes blank, you don't need to invent a brilliant topic out of thin air. You start by anchoring the conversation in a shared reality.
Meaning what, exactly?
You simply point out something you are both currently experiencing.
Oh, I see. The study.com materials actually have a great, highly practical example of this.
The training room one.
Yeah. 2 new hires, Kale and Iser, they're sitting in a training room, and the silence is just stretching out.
We've all been there.
Right. And one of them simply notices the catered lunch in the back of the room and mentions the specific local diner it came from.
Right.
And instantly, they bypass the awkwardness and connect over their favorite sandwiches from that spot.
It works so well.
Or, if you're entirely virtual, it's as simple as, hey, I really like the lighting in your Zoom background. Where is your desk set up?
Exactly. And the psychology of why the environment step works is fascinating.
Why is that?
By pointing to a third external object, whether it's the lunch, the Zoom background, the weather, you are creating a triangle.
A triangle.
It's you, them, and the object. It removes that direct face-to-face interrogation pressure.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. It's safe, it's immediate, and crucially for that cognitive load, it requires absolutely zero advanced preparation.
Okay, so once you've anchored that shared environment, you move to A, which is ask. You ask an open-ended question tied to whatever context you just established.
Right.
But the sources are very clear that the nuance here is what makes or breaks the conversation. You can't just ask questions that lead to a dead-end yes or no.
No, and you also want to avoid questions that are too broad. Rahul Kohli points this out beautifully.
Yeah, I loved this part.
We default to asking, how was your weekend? But think about what that requires of the other person.
A lot of work.
Yeah. They now have to sift through 48 hours of events, summarize them, and evaluate whether they were quote-unquote good or bad.
It's like assigning them a book report on the spot.
Exactly. That's why the default answer is always a flat, it was fine.
Because fine is the path of least resistance.
Exactly. But if you tweak the ask step, if you say, what was the most interesting part of your weekend?
Oh, that completely reframes the task.
Yes.
It gives their brain a specific target to hit. They don't have to summarize everything. They just have to find one interesting data point.
Right. It lowers the burden of recall and practically guarantees a narrative response rather than just a one-word answer.
So they give you that narrative response, and then we hit a crucial pivot in the EASE framework. The S stands for share.
Right.
This is where you have to offer a brief personal detail in return. Because if you just keep firing well-crafted, open-ended questions at someone, it stops feeling like a corporate lobby.
It starts feeling like a deposition.
Exactly. It's too intense.
The share is what establishes mutuality. But it's not just what you share, it's how you deliver it.
Meaning?
Well, the Talera research on non-native speakers actually highlights a really interesting mechanical trick used by native speakers. They constantly deploy natural filler phrases.
Okay.
Things like, well, funny you mentioned that. Or actually, I've been running into something similar.
It's so subtle, but those aren't just verbal tics, are they?
No, they serve a vital mechanical purpose.
Interesting.
When you use a phrase like, funny you mentioned that, you are buying your brain a half second of processing time.
Ah, I see.
It signals to the other person, I am actively engaged with what you just said, and I am currently formulating my response.
Right.
It prevents you from sounding robotic or overly rehearsed.
It sounds like this entire ask and share dynamic is less like a formal interview and more like passing a heavy physical object back and forth.
I like that.
If I just ask question after question, I'm throwing tennis balls at you until you're overwhelmed.
Right.
But if I ask a question and then I share my own experience, I'm holding the weight for a second so you can catch your breath.
That's a great way to visualize it.
So EASE doesn't just tell you what to say. It dictates the rhythm of the burden. environment, ask, share, and then finally the E stands for exit.
Right.
We will dive deep into the exit in a few minutes, but essentially it's closing with a forward-looking statement so the interaction has a clean boundary.
It gives your brain a definitive beginning, middle, and end. But if we linger on the middle of that process, that rhythm of passing the weight back and forth, how do you sustain it? Because once you get the conversation flowing, you have to actually listen.
Right, and active listening in a professional setting isn't just nodding silently.
Yeah.
The Small Talk Master Guide outlines a very specific 3-part listening loop to keep the momentum going.
Step 1 of that loop is to catch the point. When someone is speaking, you aren't just acting as a transcription service, recording the raw facts.
Right.
You are listening for the underlying emotion or the hidden effort in what they're saying.
Which leads directly into step 2, naming one specific detail. You have to prove you are actually in the room with them by calling out a specific oddity or effort from their story.
That is where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Let's say a colleague mentions they spent their entire weekend organizing a massive family reunion for 50 people.
Wow.
Right. The standard low-effort response is, wow, cool, sounds busy.
Which just immediately kills the momentum.
Right. But if you apply step 2 and name the detail, you say, wait, you planned the logistics for 50 people. That is a massive amount of invisible work.
You're validating the effort, not just the event.
Exactly.
And then step 3 of the loop is to ask or share from that specific detail. You might follow up with, how do you even begin to track dietary restrictions for that many people?
Right.
You keep the balloon in the air by pulling on a very specific thread.
And while you are keeping that balloon in the air, you have to monitor your conversational ratios.
The ratios.
Yeah, the Small Talk Master sources cite a fascinating metric, the 43-57 rule.
Okay.
The golden ratio of small talk is to talk 43% of the time and listen 57% of the time.
Why that specific imbalance, though? Why not just aim for a clean 50-50 split?
Because a 50-50 split often feels like you are competing for airtime.
Oh, like a debate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By intentionally shifting to 43-57, you are letting them speak just slightly more than you are. Psychologically, it makes the other person feel centered and valued. I see.
They walk away feeling like it was a great conversation, largely because they got to express themselves just a bit more than they had to absorb.
Right.
But because you are still talking 43% of the time, they don't feel like they were monologuing or being interrogated.
I do have a very practical question about the listening side of that ratio, though.
Sure.
Is it possible to look, I don't know, too interested? Like you're maintaining unbroken eye contact, nodding aggressively at every single syllable?
Yes. Absolutely, yes. That is a surprisingly common misstep when people try to force active listening.
It can be a bit much.
The sources explicitly warn against making your listening face too intense. Remember, small talk in the lobby is supposed to feel casual.
Right.
If you are staring them down without blinking, leaning in aggressively, it feels like a clinical courtroom confession.
It violates the environment step we talked about. It makes it too intense.
Exactly. And a related trap is over-validating.
How so? Well, if someone mentions a minor everyday annoyance, like a spreadsheet formatted incorrectly, you don't need to gasp and say, oh my goodness, that sounds like a horrific ordeal.
Right. You don't need to overdo it.
You have to match their energy. And critically, don't try to solve their problems too fast.
Oh, that's a big one.
Sometimes a colleague just wants a human witness to a minor frustration. They don't want an immediate 5-step action plan from you.
That's a great distinction. Match the energy, don't over-engineer the empathy. But, knowing how to talk and how to listen is really only half the battle here.
True.
We have to look at what not to say. Because once you step into this conversational landscape, you are entering a minefield.
Yes.
And the locations of those mines change drastically depending on exactly who is standing in front of you.
We have to start with the universal taboos. Across almost all the corporate training materials, like study.com and online class, the baseline rule is absolute.
Yeah.
You never discuss politics, religion, gossip, or salary in unscripted small talk.
The first two make obvious sense. But let's talk about why gossip and salary are so instantly destructive to that relationship equity we mentioned.
It comes down to psychological boundaries. Gossip isn't just impolite.
Right.
When you gossip about a third party to a colleague, you are actively signaling to that colleague that you are an unsafe vault for information.
Because if they'll talk about them, they'll talk about me.
Exactly. Their immediate subconscious thought is, if they will talk about Jim to me, they will absolutely talk about me to Jim.
Right.
It destroys trust instantly. And salary discussions do the same thing by introducing hard, hierarchical comparisons into a space that is supposed to be about neutral, shared environments.
The online class source also flags some specific career-damaging phrases that people let slip when they let their guard down in these casual
Oh,
chats.
these are rough.
Yeah, saying things like, that's not my job, or I don't get paid for this, or even just a blunt conversation ending, I don't know, or it's not fair.
Even in a relaxed coffee machine setting, those phrases act like red flags. They signal a lack of adaptability and a lack of teamwork. People remember the tone of those complaints long after they forget the context.
So those are the universal rules. But here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when the very definition of a friendly conversation changes based on cultural background?
This is fascinating.
We have these incredible insights from Polyglottis and Taliera comparing American and Russian professional norms. And it perfectly illustrates how incredibly subjective all of this actually is.
It's a brilliant contrast because it challenges everything an American professional might assume is just basic politeness.
Right.
Let's look at the simple act of smiling. In American corporate culture, a smile is often just a polite social mask.
Right. You smile at the barista.
You smile at a stranger in the elevator. It operates as a baseline signal that means, I am cooperative and harmless.
But the research points out that in Russian culture, unprompted smiling at strangers or casual acquaintances is frequently viewed with deep suspicion.
Right.
It's seen as insincere. There's even a Russian proverb that translates roughly to, laughter without reason is a sign of a fool.
Because for a Russian professional, a smile isn't a default setting. It is something that is earned.
Right.
It signifies a genuine established connection. If you smile constantly for no reason, you appear either naive or manipulative.
Wow.
And we see a very similar divergence with the concept of friendship itself. Americans use the word friend with incredible casualness. You might refer to someone you met at a networking event for 5 minutes last week as a friend.
Right. A friend of mine at that marketing agency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in Russia, the word for friend, drug, carries immense heavy weight.
Yeah.
It implies a bond of deep loyalty, mutual obligation, and history. You do not throw that word around lightly.
And this fundamental difference extends to how these cultures handle feedback during casual chats, too. Americans are famous for the feedback sandwich.
Oh, yes.
We instinctively soften a critique by wedging it between two compliments. But Russian professionals often value direct, blunt truth over that kind of social smoothness. To them, softening the truth isn't polite. It's evasive, confusing, and potentially dishonest.
If we pull back and look at the framework underlying this, the Taliera sources reference Aaron Meyer's cultural mapping, specifically the concept of peach versus coconut cultures.
I found this fascinating. A peach culture, like the U.S., is soft and friendly on the outside. We smile, we share superficial details easily,
Right.
but we have a heart inner core. There is a very strict boundary around our truly private lives and deep loyalties that is actually quite difficult to penetrate.
Conversely, a coconut culture, like Russia or Germany, for example, has a hard, formal exterior. They do not smile at strangers. They do not engage in superficial sharing.
Right.
But once you earn their trust and break through that tough exterior, the relationship inside is incredibly deep, loyal, and interconnected.
It's like tuning a radio dial. If you are blasting American peach frequencies, smiling constantly, sharing casual personal anecdotes, and they are operating on a Russian coconut dial.
You aren't communicating, you are just generating static.
Right. You have to physically twist your dial to match their frequency before you can broadcast anything meaningful.
That is the core takeaway. The goal isn't to memorize a massive encyclopedia of every country's specific conversational rules.
Which would be impossible.
Right. The strategy is active observation. You watch the person you are talking to, you assess whether they are operating as a peach or a coconut, and you mirror their level of formality and openness.
Okay, so let's say you've executed this flawlessly. You've read the cultural room. You've used the ease framework to anchor the environment and pass the conversational weight back and forth.
Yeah.
You've utilized the three-part listening loop. You are having a genuinely great chat in the corporate lobby.
Perfect.
But now, you have a meeting to get to. You have to leave.
Right.
How do you escape the conversation without abruptly destroying the relationship equity you just spent 5 minutes building?
The graceful exit.
Ah.
This is the final E in our framework, and it's where a surprisingly high number of people fumble the ball.
It's so awkward sometimes.
It is. But the Case Basics materials provide a highly effective protocol for this transition. First, it requires explicit time awareness.
Okay.
You want to verbally signal the transition before you actually move, using a phrase like, I want to be mindful of your time. I know you have that 10 a.m. coming up.
Oh, that's good. It frames the exit as a favor to them rather than a rejection by you.
Precisely. And then you follow that with specific appreciation.
So it's not just a generic thanks.
Exactly. Not just thanks for chatting, but something firmly anchored in the interaction. For example, thank you for sharing your insights on that Q3 project structure. That was really helpful context.
It proves you were actively engaged right up until the end.
It does.
And the sources emphasize one massive pitfall you have to avoid here. The absolute biggest mistake you can make when closing a conversation is introducing a brand new question right as you are wrapping up.
Oh, it creates immense awkwardness. If you say, I really need to run to this meeting, but how is your daughter liking her new school?
You're pulling them back in?
You are essentially pulling them forcefully back into the room right as you're trying to push them out the door.
Yeah.
It scrambles the social script.
But let me challenge the core premise of the exit for a second.
Okay.
If you are in the middle of a really good flow, isn't it inherently a little rude to just end it, especially if the other person is clearly enjoying the chat and is still talking?
This is a crucial distinction to make. There is a vast difference between a natural, graceful pause and an abrupt cutoff.
Okay, I'm tracking.
You are not interrupting them mid-sentence. You are actively listening, waiting for that conversational breath, that natural, inevitable lull, and stepping into it with your time awareness phrase. Ending cleanly actually preserves the relationship equity.
Because leaving them wanting a little bit more is far better than dragging the interaction out until they are secretly checking their watch. You never want it to turn into a hostage situation.
Exactly. And if it was a networking scenario, you solidify that clean break with the 24-hour follow-up rule.
Right.
You send a quick message referencing that specific takeaway you mentioned. But, and this is vital, you do it without asking for any referrals or favors.
It's just maintenance.
It is pure relationship maintenance. You are just watering the plant.
So, if we zoom out and look at the map we've drawn today, we started with the EASE framework: environment, ask, share, exit,
Right.
which gives your panicked brain a structural safety net. We layered in the 3-part listening loop and the 43-57 ratio to keep the conversation flowing naturally.
Yeah.
We navigated the cultural minefields by identifying peach versus coconut dynamics, and we learned how to execute a clean, professional exit that protects your relationship equity.
The immediate application for our listeners this week is very straightforward. Don't try to memorize everything at once.
That would be overwhelming.
It would. Pick 3 to 5 go-to open-ended questions based on the mechanics we discussed today. Memorize just those.
Just a few.
Having those specific tools in your back pocket will significantly lower your cognitive load, turning those unscripted, anxiety-inducing moments into your biggest professional advantage.
Before we wrap up, I want to hand it over to you for one final thought. We've spent this entire time talking about small talk as a tool to get to know other people and to build trust with them.
Right.
But what does the psychology beneath all these frameworks tell us about ourselves?
It suggests a fascinating inversion.
How so?
We always view these interactions as a window into the other person. But what if you started observing the topics you habitually cling to, or the topics you frantically try to avoid during these 2-minute unscripted moments?
Oh, wow.
If you pay attention, you'll realize that the way you navigate small talk is actually the fastest, most accurate way to discover your own hidden professional anxieties.
That's wild.
The things you rush to prove in the lobby are exactly the things you secretly fear you lack.
That is definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep practicing those small talk steps, and we'll see you next time.